Good morning and welcome to Connecting America on the USA Today streaming channels. It is Friday, everybody. I'm Jim Rosenfield alongside Mark Bonamo here at the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey. Alisyn Camerota is joining us once again from home base. Good morning, Alisyn.
Happy Friday,
Yeah,
guys.
we made it.
Great to see you. Yeah, exactly.
End of the week.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's been a very intense, I would say, news week.
That is a good way of putting it, covering a lot of tough stories around our nation. Viewers in the New York area, New Jersey area may remember Charlie Kirk's show on talk radio, WABC, home to other conservative voices like Rush Limbaugh. We're going to talk to the owner of that station. John Katsimatidis is going to join us later to talk about Kirk's impact on the radio, which obviously went well beyond radio, social media, to those events in person that attracted thousands of people, as we saw earlier this week during that tragedy in Utah.
Yeah, as well as his impact on a generation of young men and perhaps their political views. Meanwhile, get out your calculators, everyone, because this morning we're going to try to figure out if the economy is doing well or doing poorly. So here's just some of the data points. Mortgage rates are dropping. That's good. Inflation is ticking up. That's bad. Weekly jobless claims are the highest in 4 years. That's very bad. And tariffs? Those are anybody's guess since they seem to change on basically a weekly basis. So we're going to look at all of that and get you a status report.
My head is spinning already. We'll try to sort that out for all of you at home. In fact, we want to let you weigh in on this topic with our question of the day this morning. What's your take on the economy right now? Are you ready to house hunt with these mortgage rates dropping just a little bit? Are you worried about work? Is sticker shock impacting you, or do you just go with the flow? Right now, the votes are in for ready to house hunt. People ready to maybe stop renting as these mortgage rates finally drop. You can scan that QR code there on the right side of your screen. Let us know how you feel about the economy right now.
Is there an all of the above option?
Yeah.
Right.
One of the things people are doing, though, is maybe refinancing as they've been waiting out the higher rates, and they were dishing out more dollars just to hang on to their homes, and now finally maybe they can get a better interest rate. So that's something to consider as well. Lots of people have been waiting and watching to see if these interest rates continue to drop. In the meantime, also a lot of people have been renting. They haven't gone into the housing market. So we're going to talk about that as well.
Yeah, and Mark, I mean, look, you know that also we've talked to small business owners here on Connecting America and how confused they are every day about the future of their business because of tariffs, because of inflation. It's very hard for them to plan ahead.
Tough choices all around.
Yeah, they've literally been, dealing mostly with logistics, right? Trying to figure out where I can source my product if it's been in a country with tariffs that have shot up. Now they're trying to find other places to bring their product in and spending more time on that than they are just kind of running the business. So, yeah, difficult times. But let's begin now, though, with the latest on the assassination of Charlie Kirk. As we know, his followers obviously still in shock. Emotions are very high. So here is the latest. Charlie Kirk's casket there arrived back home last night in Arizona aboard Air Force Two. Vice President J.D. Vance escorted the casket along with Kirk's wife, who was on that flight. And when it landed, spectators there, some of them waving flags, they were behind barriers. They wanted to be there to pay their respects. Flags also flew at half-staff, and a hearse was there waiting to carry Kirk's body from the airport as mourners looked on in silence. And we have some new images to share with you this morning. Have you seen this? The Utah Department of Public Safety is asking for the public's help to find this person right here. Look at these images, some of them pretty clear right now. New photos of this young man, the FBI offering a $100,000 reward for information on who this person is. We know police did find a high-powered rifle in the woods after the shooting. They believe that was used in the shooting. If you have information, you can call the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or go to tips.fbi.gov. And now, Alisyn, new images released late last night, moving images. We actually see the suspect on the move there on that rooftop in the moments after the shooting. This is newly released CCTV footage Capturing that moment, the suspect made his getaway from the Utah Valley University campus in Orem, Utah, after firing that fatal shot. Look at that, jumping right off the roof down onto the grass below, picking up his backpack and taking off. And then we see him heading through those trees and into that adjacent neighborhood, where we also know law enforcement has been combing the area and looking at home surveillance cameras. Followers
Oh my
of Charlie
gosh,
Kirk,
that's incredible. I just want to say that's the first time that I've seen that
yes.
video. That's incredible. I mean, that's just incredible to see him jumping from the roof. And it does make me wonder, not that I've heard this from law enforcement, but if that was the first time he'd done that, or if had been a dry run before that, because, knowing exactly how high that roof is and how you're going to lower yourself down and how high you're going to have to jump. That was interesting to see the kind of daredevil quality of that.
Right. And you raise a very good point, Alisyn, because I know law enforcement observers have been commenting that that's likely not his first visit to scope out the area, that he would need to know how to get onto the roof of that building and where the best exit strategy would be. So it's likely they've been combing cameras and security footage from days prior to the incident to see if they can pick up images of him scoping out the area, and maybe not wearing the hat and the sunglasses. Maybe a better image of that person will come out. So yeah, it's pretty dramatic, right? And when he jumps down, it's amazing he didn't injure himself, because that was a pretty far drop there.
And if he's well trained and well prepared, he may be much harder to catch.
And time is not on the side of law enforcement. But with all these images out there, you would think that somebody has recognized that person. Maybe they don't know him, but now they run into that person and they see him. Remember with Luigi Mangione, he was discovered in a fast food restaurant, and somebody recognized him from the images that were put out at that time after the United Healthcare.
Yes, but also I think there's something a little worrisome, because when we were on the air yesterday, remember, we took the press conference from the Utah law enforcement, and they were not yet putting out images of the suspect. And so it felt like, oh, they must be close. They don't want to put out images yet. It seems like they're hot on the trail. And so the idea that now they are putting out these images means they need the public's help. So again, make sure that you even call your local 911 if you know anything about this. But that means that I think the trail is not as hot as we thought it was yesterday.
Also, people are learning more about Charlie Kirk himself. I mean, his followers certainly know of his roots in the Midwest and his rise in popularity, especially among young conservatives, but others may not have known that much about him. We wanted to take some time to look at the roots of his activism this morning. He was born and raised in the Chicago area, in the suburbs there, and his passion for conservative causes began, well, about the time he was old enough to drive. Our Mid-America correspondent Jeremy Ross is joining us from Chicago now to tell us about Charlie Kirk before he was famous. Good morning, Jeremy. Thanks for being here. What have you learned about him?
Good morning, all from the Windy City. Politically, this is one of the bluest communities in all of America, but perhaps that might be the kind of influence that helped to shape Charlie Kirk's personality, his personal and professional side. So I grew up about 40 minutes from where I'm talking right now, my location, and no doubt the city's political and cultural battles made a lasting imprint on him. He was born October 14th, 1993 in Arlington Heights, ultimately growing up in neighboring Prospect Heights. Both are suburban Chicago areas. His mother worked as a mental health counselor, his father an architect. Now, they raised him in a politically moderate household, Kirk attending Wheeling High School. During his time in those halls and classes, he penned an essay for conservative website Breitbart, and Breitbart published that. And that made him a teen author and played a major role in putting him on the national scale conservative map. In it, he argued that textbooks in education had a liberal bias, and those textbooks needed to be reevaluated for political leanings. And that started a teen author that turned into a rising teen political TV career, including one of several appearances on Fox News and Fox and Friends. Let's take a watch.
From high school this coming June, we're handed a diploma That's also an invoice for hundreds of thousands of dollars that my generation's going to have to pay off through interest, high taxes, and a stagnant economy. We here at SOS Liberty believe that if we do not change the conversation back to us, the kids that are going to have to inherit this debt, that our economy will be stagnant for years to come. And our website, we have really interesting things. We have videos, pictures trying to inspire the youth, SOSLiberty.com, that has a wide variety of youth from all across the country jumping onto our cause. Well, I'm having trouble finding a summer job, as is Mike, in a lot of different regards. A lot of kids are feeling the effects of what we like to call, with the Washington economy, with a lot of debt, plummeting small business, with higher regulation and high taxes. We're just trying to reinstitute the founding principles, free market, fiscal responsibility. SOS Liberty is a nonpartisan. We don't consider this a Republican versus Democrat issue, but rather a generation.
A young baby-faced Charlie Kirk there talking about his fellow students. Now, Kirk would later attend Harper College, also in the Chicago suburbs, before dropping out and focusing on his activism. He was a champion of Christianity, held deeply pro-Israel beliefs, and he'd rub elbows with Tea Party mentors and other political heavyweights, but eventually started Turning Point USA in 2012. The youth conservative organization began small before massive growth, beginning with $78,000 in total revenue, all the way to $55.8 million in 2021. The organization boasting media and political network, holding rallies, running campus chapters, campus rallies, influencing young voters in the Republican Party. President Donald Trump acknowledging that influence and how he was reelected in 2024. So from the Chicago suburbs to the White House, Kirk has left a lasting mark on U.S. politics.
Jeremy, do you think there was a seminal moment when he was growing up in the Chicagoland area that fueled his fire for conservative activism?
I think a lot of the influence, particularly in Chicago, again, one of the bluest areas across the country, can kind of work to kind of counterbalance a lot of the politics in the area. And I think that he saw, or at least might have seen, what was going on in Chicago, all the spending that many people will argue has put them in a very big hole now, and said, you know what, we need to do the opposite. And that momentum is carried in through the Republican Party. And certainly impacted the national political scale. So living really close to Chicago certainly shaped who he was.
Yeah, I can understand why he would have gotten a lot of attention, even at that age in high school. He's so poised, he's so articulate, he seems so comfortable with his position, and that idea that textbooks were, had a liberal bias really took hold around that. I mean, I was at Fox at that time, and I remember how many segments we did on that. And, it's interesting to know that Charlie might have been kind of at the vanguard of that, because then, as you know, school boards across the country started taking up that cause, and textbooks started being rewritten and things like that, I think around that time. So it's interesting that kind of put him on the national map.
And it was very interesting to continue to learn that he was raised in a politically moderate household. And so some of those external influences clearly played a major role in who he was as a person.
Yeah, and you mentioned Tea Party activism and Tea Party activists who sort of mentored him. Yesterday, we heard from Joe Walsh, who was a Tea Party member and became a mentor to him. He said yesterday here on Connecting America, he felt like a son to me. So obviously people were, attracted to him because, as Alisyn mentioned, he was so articulate. In that video, Jeremy, he was what, like 17, 18?
Yeah, 18 years old, yep. And it is amazing. You talk about the poise, the delivery, the confidence, the conviction, and certainly his faith playing a major role in some of the things that he has been talking about, championing. But as a teen, he really looked and sounded more along the lines of an adult veteran politician. And not a lot of people have that. And obviously, Fox and Friends, many of the conservative outlets out there seized on that and helped him rise to prominence. And obviously, he played a major role in the talents that he brought to the table for that.
All right, Jeremy Ross, thanks for taking us back in time to learn more about his early activism. We appreciate it, from Chicago this morning.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and we remember yesterday Joe Walsh saying, Alisyn, that they split. He said we broke up because Joe Walsh had his own turning point, if you will, now a Democrat, and obviously changing his views on the idea of conservative activism, and so they weren't really speaking more recently, but still felt that, that close bond that was forged in those earlier days.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Joe said that he considered Charlie Kirk a son, still, even after they broke up. But it's interesting. I mean, I think Joe would say that he didn't change so much as the conservative right wing of the party changed and left him behind. And in that, I think it speaks a little bit to that clip that we just saw of Charlie Kirk, because he there is railing against debt, the runaway debt. He says is, fighting against that is one of the founding principles, and he believes in free market principles. You could argue that those are not the things that President Trump personifies and is the policies that he's putting in right now. There's all sorts of additions to the debt and the deficit with some of his policies. And so maybe Charlie Kirk's position changed on that as well.
It sure seems it did. And we're going to have a lot more ahead in about 15 minutes. John Katsimatidis, owner of WABC Radio, where Charlie Kirk hosted his own radio show from 2021 to 2022, will be here. And then in our next hour, we'll go to Phoenix to speak with a reporter from the Arizona Republic to learn more about Turning Point USA. That's the organization, of course, Charlie Kirk founded as a teenager. Alisyn, it sure seems back to the investigation, because let's not lose sight of the fact that his killer is still out there, right? It seems they have some pretty good clues right now, visual clues. But again, time is ticking. And for investigators, how difficult is it now that he's had time to move about? And, is he still in that area in Utah? Or has he managed to find a way out of that area completely? So we're going to watch the investigation and obviously keep our eyes out this morning for any new developments on that front.
Yeah. Also, I want people to know that these are tense days, tense mornings on college campuses across the country, particularly at HBCUs. Those are the historically Black colleges and universities across the country. At least 7 HBCUs went on lockdown yesterday after terror threats. They were Alabama State University, Virginia State University, Hampton University, Spelman College, Southern University, A&M College, Clark, Atlanta University, Bethune, Cookman. Many college campuses are now on heightened alert following Charlie Kirk's assassination, because, of course, that happened at a campus event in Utah, and because, Mark and Jim, of course, tensions and anger are so high about this. I mean, all of everyone has calls for the political rhetoric to be tamped down, but it has not been yet. We've even heard examples of that on our program. And so there's so much emotion connected to this that campuses are really on the lookout today.
And you'll see social media traffic from students at HBCUs, and they're wondering, why us? What do we have to do this directly? But in terms of the national dialogue now, with the rhetoric so high, it washes up upon them as well.
Yeah, and we've seen these swatting incidents. We've covered that in recent weeks at other university settings. It's become a fairly popular phenomenon, and it's dangerous in and of itself. Hoaxes that still cause people to run in panic and barricade themselves inside classrooms or dorms. We've seen an increase in those incidents. All right, let's turn to some other news this Friday morning. President Trump was in New York last night to mark September 11th. He went to the Yankees game, where he heard a mix of cheers and boos at the stadium ahead of his trip. The Secret Service, as you would imagine, said there would be an increased law enforcement presence. Security was very tight at Yankee Stadium for the president's appearance there.
Well, it's stormy times in America now, and the weather still goes on, and there's storms to look at. Let's take a look at the coast-to-coast weather now with Dan DePodwin, AccuWeather's Vice President of Forecasting Operations. Dan, how's the weekend shaking up around the country?
Yeah, good morning, Mark, Jim, and Alisyn. It's going to be overall, I would say, fairly tranquil weekend across the United States. We'll take a look sort of at this summary. The key points, sort of a few key points here. One, the heat in the middle of the country, some late season warm, hot weather in some cases. Air temperatures in the 80s and 90s. AccuWeather real field temperatures well into the 90s in many places, from the plains up through the Midwest here, Kansas City, St. Louis, all getting in on the heat this weekend. Good news in parts of the Southeast. Florida has just been soaked by rain over the last couple weeks. In fact, Miami's picked up their entire typical September rainfall just in the last week or two. So it's been a very wet pattern, but we'll start to dry out a bit along the Florida Peninsula, which is good news. And a bit of a cool down in the Northeast, some pockets of showers, especially on Saturday in parts of New England. And we'll see a spotty thunderstorm activity in the plains. Really not a lot of severe weather. There can be some severe thunderstorms, but overall, no sort of major high impact weather across a large section of the nation. Overall, a fairly tranquil weekend here in the middle of September.
That's great. How's it looking on the West Coast?
Yeah, the West Coast going to be, again, pretty comfortable, dry and a bit cooler too. We've had some rain lately in parts of Oregon, Nevada, California. That's helped to reduce the fire threat, which is good news. Still going to be concerned about the fire risk over the next couple of months as we head into the typical fire season in California. Some showers popping into the Northwest, but overall fairly quiet along the West Coast here this weekend.
Anything at all brewing in the Atlantic? Anything you're worried about?
Yeah, so as we look at the Atlantic Basin, we've been talking about this really unusual period of just nothing from a mid-season lull perspective. Back in 92, we had something similar. This was no storms between August 29th and September 17th. This year, we had Tropical Storm Fernand in late August, nothing since. Don't think anything forms this weekend. We are, though, concerned about two areas. The conditions in the tropical Atlantic look to become more favorable through the second half of September. The areas we have outlined here, one orange area, so medium risk, 14th through 17th, and then in a similar area for a second system that could form later on next week. Those are the two areas that are probably the closest to development sometime next week. So I think we're, at this point, expecting at least one storm probably by this time next week, probably in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And at that time, it would be no threat to land.
And thank you so much. Hope you have a great weekend. And coming up next, since we're in a diner, we got a recipe for you. Here are the ingredients: a socialist Democrat, a disgraced former governor, an embattled mayor, and the head of the Guardian Angels. What are you cooking up?
Sounds
You're
spicy.
cooking up the race for mayor of New York City. We're going to talk about that when we come right back.
Welcome back, everyone, to Connecting America. Great
We're
to have
back.
all of you with us this morning. Yeah, we are. I can see that you guys have not had your complete coffee quota yet this
We
morning.
just lost our monitor for a second. We didn't realize we were relaxing. We'll take
Yeah,
another
you
sip,
guys are gonna,
Alisyn.
yeah. You guys are gonna need some coffee and some omelets very soon over there.
No
Definitely.
waffles? Come on.
Okay, that's
You can
fine too.
see
Waffles are
Jim
good.
McQueen is joining us here at the table on this Friday morning, talking some politics, specifically the race for mayor in New York City. Let's dive right into how this is shaping up, because it's really a tale of potentially two very different kinds of races. Socialist Democrat Zoran Mamdani, we know he's holding a double-digit lead, but that's if the race stays a four-man contest with former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, incumbent Mayor Eric Adams, and Republican Curtis Lewa. But here's the difference. In a head-to-head race just with Cuomo, a New York Times poll shows Mamdani would only lead Cuomo by 4 points. So, we still have to see how this shakes out. Is everyone staying in the race or not? That's a big question. But what's your take on how different those numbers look depending on how many are actually staying in the race?
Yeah, well, look, there's a lot of time left. There's a lot of room, if you will, to play here. But Mamdani has really solidified his support, and it's an increasing support right now. And if you add Adams, the incumbent mayor, to Cuomo on those numbers, if they were to get out, and that's a whole other issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't come up close enough right now. And it's not an issue of 4 points. There's another poll that people don't follow, and it's called the sentiment poll.
Mm-hmm.
How do people feel? Not how they're going to vote or what they tell pollsters, how they feel. And they feel they want change. And that's what helped elect Trump. 77 million people voted for change as well as Trump. And Harris didn't make an argument for change. She, in fact, defended the status quo. So you see here the sentiment that's underlying the public polls. They want change. Is Cuomo the change agent? He personifies status quo. So when you look at where the growth is going to go, where the sentiment is going to be come November 4th, you're really looking at something that they want change. And Mamdani, is being pilloried by the New York Post, for instance, the big paper there, where they call it, communist practically on here, right? But it doesn't matter. And this is a blue collar newspaper, by the way, talking about blue collar issues.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the issues here is what happens if somebody gets out? There's a lot of talk about that Adams might get out. I don't know. Somebody's going to throw him in ambassadorship.
Trump might offer him a job. Right.
Yep. Take him out. It's not going to happen. And one of the reasons here is that, you're looking at this sentiment thing that's out there. But even Adams, if he gets out, it's not transferable. He was down in the 4% or whatever it was, 9% in that tally you talked about, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas 4 points if they collapse. He's just he can't get out. It's Lewa,
but Jim,
right?
Hold on. Here's what I want to know, because you're such an old hand at this, and you've been so steeped in this political racket for so long. Does Trump, by meddling, does he want Eric Adams to get out? And if that's the case, just help me with the strategery. Does he want Mamdani to win so that he can be a foil against Trump for the next however many years?
Alisyn, 100%. Everybody's playing with this thing about trying to get Cuomo in and stuff like that, especially the developer interests in New York, where they've just basically are funding an independent expenditure thing that's going on against Mamdani. Whether it happens or it doesn't, but they're really alarmed about rent control and rent freezes, excuse me. But Trump, Alisyn, you're 100% correct. He has, let's say what the New York Post calls it, a communist in New York. And for the midterms in a year from November here, they can run that thing from here to kingdom come. And it would be a profitable thing for them to do politically. So I don't understand personally this whole thing about trying to get him out of the race, to help Mamdani. It doesn't make sense. It makes political sense, exactly what you said.
We also saw this week a bunch of corporate leaders, real estate guys, having this cabal, this backroom meeting. They're emerging. They're saying, we're behind Andrew Cuomo. We're going to get Mamdani out of the race. Couldn't this possibly backfire and actually boost Mamdani?
Well, it'll be interesting because I had breakfast with somebody who was a part of that just the other day, this week, in fact. And he was telling me that they all met and they all were told to sort of, be ready to write checks. And there was talk about they could raise $24 million. And these people are property developers, big landlords around the city, and they don't want to see this rent freeze that's going to hurt their return of capital, right? It's classic capitalist thinking, nothing wrong with that, but capitalist thinking, and they're posing it as communists versus capitalists on this thing. That's how desperate they are to do this. Is it going to work? It's not working so far. And, Mondani is actually seen favorably by more people than Cuomo was favorably. That's a whole different thing than would you vote for him favorably. So he's actually drifting to something that's actually pretty strong for him.
Do you think Cuomo is regretting this decision to get into this race, that he can't overcome, the legacy of his time as governor and having to leave in disgrace?
Well, Jim, despite what we say,
yeah.
you're only going to regret it if you lose, right? Mm-hmm. Right now he's losing, but he hasn't lost, right? So one of the things behind the scenes is that Adams is not going to get out. The word on the street is Cuomo promised him way back he would not run against him. And this is a thing where he welched, according to Adams, and Adams will not get out for a personal reason on here. And ambassadorship to Saudi Arabia or not, he's not going to get out, as people say. Other people tell the New York Times that he is going to do this. But I hear on the street that basically he's so wounded by this betrayal, he's going to stay in. And tough stuff.
Yeah. Big egos involved, obviously.
Double-crossing politics.
Yeah.
Shocking.
All right. Thanks, Jim. We appreciate you being here on this Friday morning. All right, coming up next, a media mogul joining us to talk about the legacy of Charlie Kirk when we come back here on Connecting America. Welcome back to Connecting America here from the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey on this Friday morning. Alisyn, you're joining us from home on Friday.
I sure am. I'm at my global home quarters. But let's talk more about the aftermath of the Charlie Kirk murder, because he was such a polarizing, honestly, figure. There are large swaths of this country that followed him intimately, that knew all of his positions, particularly young men in this country. And then there are large chunks of the country that didn't know him at all and didn't follow him on social media or on his radio shows. So here's a little history about him. He had a meteoric rise starting basically when he was a teenager. That's when he harnessed the digital age of podcasts and social media. He then launched this radio show on WABC, one of the hugest stations in the country. And he became one of the most influential conservative voices, not just of his generation. I mean, people in the generation above him followed him as well. At WABC, Charlie worked for the media owner, John Katsimatidis, who is going to join us now to talk about Charlie Kirk and about his impact. John, thank you so much for being here with us. I know that you know him so well. You've been in podcasting, you've been in politics for decades. Explain to people who don't necessarily know Charlie Kirk what made him so influential.
Well, he started at the age of 18, and he was well liked, and he went out of his way to be well liked. In other words, no matter what your politics are, no matter who you were, he embraced you, he hugged you, and if you had different politics, he would still have the courage to sit down and discuss things with you. So he was a real person, and in another life, he could have been a preacher. Uh, but we enjoyed having him on WABC for 2 years, and he's going to be missed. My son, John Jr., was very, very close to him. He had been close for over 10 years, since they were like 21 years old. My son at that time was the New York State GOP chairman. And the fact he will definitely be missed. President Trump is missing him. And President Trump has given him the Medal of Freedom that he doesn't do very often. I don't know what else I could say.
John,
he was an icon in the community.
I'm wondering who picks up this mantle. He's in death now, almost larger than life, but who's waiting in the wings, a young person with his charisma? Do you see someone out there who can carry the torch for, young conservatives?
It'd have to be, the word conservative. Don't forget where I come from. I was a Bill Clinton Democrat at one time. And I still love the guy. I still think he's one of the best Democratic presidents we ever had. But Donald Trump, I've known for 45 years or 50 years. And so you can consider me a middle of the road person. And I engage with Democrats. I engage with Republicans. I have no problem engaging with both sides. So you don't need necessarily a conservative. You need somebody that has special skills to bring both sides together. Because I think that is the future of America. I think common sense America is what we all want. I grew up in the days of Father Knows Best, Ozzie and Harriet, and Three's a Family, and I think you need somebody that's going to bring together the common sense Democrats, the common sense independents, and the common sense Republicans. Extremism in either side, extremism on the left, extremism on the right, that's not me. But I think that.
But John, I hear John.
Charlie
Hold on a
Kirk
second. I love your message. I love your message. That's what we're trying to do on Connecting America. I think people are hungry for that, to bring both sides together in civil discourse. But was Charlie Kirk doing that? Because, he did say lots of polarizing things. He did say lots of provocative and extreme things. And I think that, from what I've learned about him, he liked that. He liked pushing people's buttons, and he wasn't afraid to say sometimes, offensive things. So that wasn't really his. Would you say that's his legacy, or is it time to move in that direction?
No, not necessarily, but he was willing to sit down with both sides, which is important.
Yeah.
Anytime, don't forget, it all started with Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich. They sat down. It started with Ronald Reagan and Tip
And
O'Neill. They
yeah.
sat down. No matter how much they argued, at the end of the day, they were both Americans and did what's best for America. And right now, we have the Socialist Party, the socialists trying to take over the Democratic Party, which is wrong. I believe that common sense Democrats have to stop that because the socialists have, how do I say it the nicest way I can? They have lost their mind.
But John, President Trump spoke specifically about how important a role Charlie Kirk played in getting him elected again as president of the United States. You even saw on his last day how Charlie Kirk drew so many people to come see him. What lessons can today's leaders learn from Charlie's success in mobilizing a movement?
I believe he took the young people in colleges of New York or the United States. I think as many as 3,000 colleges or universities or high schools, et cetera, and mobilized 250,000 kids. And the fact is, our otherwise, what happened to our kids? Our kids have been um, given the wrong impressions. When I went to the university in my age, I went to college. I went to college to listen to both sides. Right now, you go to Harvard, you go to other schools, you don't listen to both sides. You only listen to one side. The university is for listening to both sides. And foreign money has infiltrated our universities. The most philanthropic people in the world are the Jewish American people. They go to Harvard and they build a building and they put their name on it, Goldberg's building, etc. The foreign countries go to Harvard and say, we're going to give you all this money, but we don't want you to hire this professor, this professor, this professor. That indoctrinates our kids.
John, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So I know that Jim was asking who can carry the mantle, who can carry the torch of Charlie Kirk. And I don't know if you know the answer to that, but do you see anyone out there, man, woman, young, old, politician, grassroots activist, who is doing what you say we all should move towards, which is sitting down with both sides, with being reasonable? I mean, who do you listen to on that front?
I have created common sense. When I hired Bill O'Reilly 5 years ago when I bought WABC, and everybody, Bill O'Reilly was on the outs. And the fact is that my people at WABC said, everybody, we're going to lose all our advertisers if you hire Bill O'Reilly. I said, I'm going to hire him. And Bill O'Reilly came to me and said to me, what should I name the show? I said, how about Common Sense with Bill O'Reilly? And it was sold. But we've been spreading the words common sense, and all of a sudden, common sense, those words are being said at the White House, are being said in Congress, all over the place. We need more common sense Americans to speak out and have the courage to speak out. And I talked to my son, who was very close to Turning Point. He was very close to Charlie Kirk. And when my son said that probably his number two guy, and I forget his name, is going to take over. But Turning Point is a great organization. They should go through a selection process just to be fair to everything.
All right, John Catsimatidis, we thank you for being here on Connecting America, and appreciate the sentiment that we need to be able to talk to one another, because that's, as you said, Alisyn, what we're all about here at Connecting America. And whoever picks up the mantle, for Turning Point, Charlie Kirk had a charisma about him, and even when he was combative with the other side, it was sort of like, bring it on, and I'm happy to debate this with you. And as he said, also had a warmth to him that you felt in person. I've never met him, so I can't speak to that. But it has to be somebody with sort of that magic, element to that person that, can engage with the other side and bring that point of view, but with some sort of charismatic personality that he
Yeah,
had.
I don't remember meeting Charlie in person, though. Since I saw him on Fox and Friends on 2012, it's possible that I interviewed him and just thought that he was an up and coming student and didn't know that he would become this, major political figure in the country. But I do take the point that he was likable, and you can see that on social media. If you, regardless of whether or not you agree with his positions, and he did have some extreme positions, he had a warmth and a likability on social media that people might want to check out, because it is that special sauce that you're talking about, Jim, that allows somebody to be a leader.
Right, and whoever comes along after him, charisma or not, because Charlie Kirk in many ways is going to be hard to replace, there's got to be some sort of value to turning the tone of the rhetoric down. We see what's happened in terms of political violence over the last couple of years, the last decade. There's got to be a better way.
Should we take a break and maybe talk about things that can take our mind off the troubles of the world?
That would be great.
All right, because coming up next, we're going to talk about how you can see a Broadway play without necessarily visiting New York. Connecting America. We'll be right back. We want to crunch some numbers here at the diner and with you, Alisyn, on the state of the economy.
Let me get my calculator out. Go ahead.
Okay. Kind of getting a read on the state of the economy this week with some new numbers out on jobs, also inflation. You ready? Consumer prices up nearly 3% last month. That's
Bring
up
that in the
from
bad category.
July.
That goes in bad. Go ahead.
Yep. Over the past year, drilling down, groceries with the biggest price increases include coffee. Have you seen the price of coffee lately? Up 21%. If you're a steak eater, you're paying 17% more. Apples up 10%. We know Alisyn likes her apples with peanut butter.
And I like my coffee and steak. So now
Yeah.
this is explaining a few things in
So
my
you have
house.
to
Yeah.
dig deeper into your pocket. Yeah. How much you spend depends on what else is on your list, though. Prices went up for things like cars and clothes, but the increases on tires for those cars and furniture, for instance, not as steep as they had been in recent months, but still up. How about the job
Okay.
market?
So, well, I mean, so everything you're saying there in terms of inflation, that sounds like a red flag for the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at what's happening in the jobs market.
Yep.
263,000 people filed for first-time jobless claims last week. Okay, that is the highest number in 4 years. Another red flag. The New York Fed releasing a survey showing that people have only a 45% probability of finding a new job if they've lost their current one. And that number is the lowest in more than a decade. So I'm going to file that under red flag also.
Yeah, and that can be so humiliating if you're out there trying to find a job and you can't break through. And I think, AI has something to do with this because, so many jobs now are posted online, right, Alisyn? And you can easily click apply, but you don't know whether an actual human being takes a look at your resume, and then you get that rejection if you even hear from the potential employer. So it's tough for many people who are looking for work, and also new job numbers I think were down as well in the latest snapshot that we got. Did your calculator blow up with all those numbers?
It just completely conked out.
Okay.
It's just black now.
We'd love
but
to
yeah,
hear
I
you.
think that.
Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I think that you make such a good point that because it's all automated, that's also so demoralizing. You don't know if anybody read your resume. You just send it off into hyperspace, Mark, and like you don't even know. You don't necessarily even get a rejection. You don't get an acceptance, but you don't even get a rejection.
And, with all these technological things happening now, it only increases the frustration. This could potentially trickle over into politics. Democratic strategist James Carville famously said, it's the economy, stupid. When it comes into going into election season. So if people are feeling this frustration, this could be taken out on the polls.
Love to know your feelings about your vibe on the economy. There it is, our question of the day. Are you ready to house hunt? Are you worried about work, though? Are you in sticker shock with those prices at the grocery store and elsewhere? Or are you just trying to go with the flow? And depending on when we ask that question, you might get a different answer to that last category about going to the flow. Things might stress you out at any given time. Scan that QR code right there on the right side of your screen, and you can weigh in on our question of the day. All right, Lee Shep's joining us here at the table. Thanks so much for being here, because we want to talk about things percolating on Broadway. There's your pun of the day, Alisyn, from the diner.
Oh, well done.
Thank you. Well done.
But I mean, let's be honest. Musicals, the arts, they make us feel better. I mean, they're so soul satisfying. And now I think Lee's going to tell us how we can all, even from home, access this more.
Yeah, you don't have to be in New York, right? And you can take in a Broadway show, just not on the Great White Way.
Well, if we're talking about prices and inflation, it's seeing a Broadway show, but without paying the big bucks for it. Some of the biggest Broadway shows are touring right now, from The Sound of Music to Beauty and the Beast, which is celebrating its 30th anniversary right now. And I went online to look at some ticket prices, and Hell's Kitchen, which is playing in Cleveland, Ohio, I looked at the ticket price. Get this, $150 for its top tier premium ticket. Hamilton, which is playing in Syracuse, New York, is under $200 a ticket. So it's well worth seeing one of these touring productions, which is basically like a carbon copy of a Broadway show, if not the exact version from Broadway, playing in a city near you.
Those are prices you don't see on Broadway for orchestra seats right now.
Of course not.
I mean, they're upwards of what, like $400 and up?
My mom is talking to her friends about paying $300 for an upcoming Broadway show, and I have to go to the box office to buy tickets for her.
Okay.
But Lee, you said it's a carbon copy. Are the touring? I've never known this. Are the touring ensembles really a carbon copy, or is it a different cast? With you're not going to be seeing the people that the big stars that you've heard about.
Well, it's a carbon copy of the show and the sets, and it's supposed to look like the Broadway show. But no, you're right, Alisyn. You're not going to see the same Broadway cast, but you are going to see that same top tier Broadway household name that's in a Broadway show. And in some cases, they might not be household names yet, but they will be. And I have two examples of that. One is Amber Ardolino. She started in a touring production of Legally Blonde, and now she is huge on Broadway. She's currently leading the cast of The Great Gatsby. And another one is Jennifer Newberry, who was on tour as Glinda in Wicked, and now she is the standby on Broadway. So take a look at your playbills, because you might have gone to a show in recent years and have looked at the cast, and they might have been, not famous then, but they might be famous now.
Lee, regardless of where you see the show or who's in the actual plays and musicals, you see so many of them. What's so special about live theater?
You sit in the theater and you take in what's in front of you, and there's so many cases where I'm crying sitting in the audience
Right.
because there's something that resonates with everybody. The story might take place 50, 60 years ago, but something inside it hits me and it relates to me right now. And then I reflect on what's happening. Maybe Beauty and the Beast, not everyone can relate to Beauty and the Beast in terms of, magic, but they do love Disney, and they remember that time that they first saw that musical in 1994 on Broadway, like I did, and are reminiscing about that time. And I do want to point out, we're talking about Beauty and the Beast. I have some fun facts about national tours that might be really interesting if we have some time. Okay, I have cue cards because I couldn't remember all of this. Okay, it takes 75 people to deliver each performance of Beauty and the Beast on tours, from actors, crew, hair, sets. The North American tour of Beauty and the Beast uses 9 trucks to haul its costumes and sets, and 1 for merchandise, 4 crew members to put Belle into her a yellow ball gown look. We all know that famous yellow ball gown. And the fastest costume change, 24 seconds during the Be Our Guest tap dancing section.
Yeah.
So that is really fascinating.
You have to be nimble if you're in some of these shows and be ready for that quick change.
Well, they have behind the scenes. Sometimes they show the behind the scenes videos of these quick changes, and there's like 8 people putting the costume on you.
Yeah. We're talking about road shows and great cast members who then go maybe sometimes from Broadway and join the road show. And some new shows coming to Broadway coming up, and that you're excited about.
We talked last week about Queen of Versailles, and I'm so excited to see Chess with Lea Michele.
Yeah.
Can't wait. That's a revival, but I'm very excited.
All right. Lee Sheps, thanks for being here. And I understand crying because the talent is amazing when you're in some of these shows. It's not that you're sad necessarily. It's just you're overcome with what the quality of the production.
Well, and what you're feeling with the message that they're giving.
Yeah. All right, Lee, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Yeah, have some coffee while you're here. If you'd like to connect with us or follow us, find us on social media. We are all over it. There are our handles: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And the best of Connecting America, also available every day wherever you get your podcasts. Just type in Connecting America in the search bar. We'll be back at the top of the hour, and as the diner fills up, we're going to try to talk to some of the folks here, find out what's on their mind as we head into the weekend. We'll be right back.
I see that.
Good morning on this Friday. Welcome back to Connecting America on the USA Today streaming channels. I'm Jim Rosenfield alongside Mark Panamo here at the Sunrise Diner in Roselle Park, New Jersey. We miss you here, Alisyn, but we know you're comfortable at home this morning.
I am. I'm quite comfortable at home, and I ate breakfast before you guys. Somehow you guys are in a diner, but I managed to eat breakfast here at my global home quarters earlier. I was starving this morning, so I've already had my banana peanut butter toast that I'm known for here.
I was going to ask you if it involved turning on the stove or just
Not yet.
Easy peasy.
Just the toaster.
We want to talk about the latest on the killing of Charlie Kirk, and something that struck me as I was watching video last night. His body is back in Arizona, and his casket was here aboard Air Force Two, arrived last evening, accompanied by Vice President J.D. Vance. It is unusual. It's rare for Air Force Two to be used in this way for a private citizen and their remains to be flown aboard it. But it speaks to, obviously, Kirk's influence in conservative circles. President Trump, we know, has also announced he plans to honor Charlie Kirk with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And there's also new information about the investigation, right, Alisyn? We're watching that very closely.
Yes, guys, because there's still no arrest of any suspect in this. I mean, this is surprising because they do have good photos. Investigators released these new photos. Take a look, please, at your screen right now, because this person is still on the loose. The FBI is now offering a $100,000 reward for information on him. Now, police say they did recover the high-powered rifle that in the woods that they believe was used in this shooting. But if you have any information on this suspect or about this crime at all, please call 800-CALL-FBI, CALL-FBI, or you can go to tips.fbi.gov. You can stay anonymous. I mean, they, at this point, really need the public's help to get this suspect. Let's talk a little bit more about Charlie Kirk and about his impact. His group, Turning Points USA, is based in Phoenix, Arizona. So joining us now is the Arizona Republic's politics reporter, Laura Gersoni. Laura, thank you so much for joining us, because you've written profile pieces about Charlie Kirk. We all know that he was this political conservative dynamo, but tell us what else we need to know about him.
Yeah, that's right. You know, one thing that stood out to me in the wake of Charlie Kirk's killing is just how much he was able to accomplish by the age of 31. He got his start really when he was 18 years old, founding Turning Point USA, but sort of his political ascent began in 2016 when he delivered a speech before the Republican National Convention that year. He started out, I would say, with really a libertarian conservative message. His big applause line at that point was "Big government sucks," kind of irreverent for its time. In time, his thinking would evolve, just as the Republican Party did, towards a worldview that I would say really blended his Christian faith with kind of blunt force critiques of race and social issues, something that made him really an opinion maker in the modern GOP.
You're in his home state there. I'm wondering, did you ever have a chance to interview him, have personal interaction with him, and what was he like when that happened?
I did, actually. I did, yeah. He was a surrogate for some people in Trump's orbit during the 2024 election cycle. I must say, really, it was surreal to see, especially some of that shocking footage about someone I had spoken to several times in person. I would say, honestly, to me, he came across much like he does on his live streams, kind of easygoing, provocative, and entertaining. You know, he was funny, politically articulate, but definitely with a certain personality flair.
What kind of impact do you think, as being an influential voice for conservatives, not only on the national level, but also in Arizona, potentially moving to the party in Arizona to the right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You know, I would say that Charlie Kirk made himself indispensable in Arizona politics on the right. First of all, Turning Point was a financial powerhouse. They started a campaign wing that really took off in the 2024 election cycle, where they were financing much of the Trump campaign's ground game, door knockers during that race. That's a really important role to be playing during a high stakes election. The other thing is, you know, Turning Point had so much clout that they eventually were threatening even to primary sitting members of Congress. with people who were seen as not being sufficiently loyal to Trump. And just as you said, that's exactly the same tactic that they deployed with some success in Arizona to pull the party further to the right. I think thousands of people across the country took their cues from Charlie Kirk and Turning Point, and that was absolutely the case here in Arizona, where even just anecdotally, after his death, I had so many people reach out to me and say, this is surreal. This is someone we knew, we were friends with, who we had relationships with. And I think that kind of explains why he held so much political currency here and across the country.
All right, it's really interesting to hear you talk about his own political evolution, because it's hard not to notice that somebody who thinks big government sucks suddenly is a supporter of President Trump, who I don't think it has instituted small government. I mean, President Trump has been taking a very active role in doing things in the states, in signing tons of executive orders, et cetera, et cetera. That certainly suggests big government. Did Charlie Kirk explain some of those, seeming discrepancies?
That's a really interesting question. First, I would say yes, he did. I mean, whether you loved him or hated him, he was quite transparent about his political views. What I would say is that he changed over the years, just like the party did. And that involved, just to give you a couple of examples, that involved taking on positions that were at times provocative, that were in the fringe. Certainly, when he said them, maybe he caused certain views to be accepted in a more mainstream way. One that comes to mind is his view on the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This was a refrain of his that passing that law was a mistake. That even Martin Luther King Jr. was a bad person. Those are his words. I think these are the kinds of opinions that made him notorious on the left, but earned him quite a bit of acclaim on the American right. I think that he spoke to the party. He had his finger on the pulse of what people wanted, and I think that's absolutely right that his views changed over time, even raising sort of questions about his consistency over the years. But that this was really, he had his finger on the pulse and was speaking to an audience that he really knew and understood on a deep level. And I think that's why his content and his personality resonated with so many on the American right.
Laura, real quickly, what do you think the future of Turning Point USA looks like without him at the helm?
Yeah, that's the question that we're all asking. Turning Point is a behemoth, and excuse me, and we've only known a Turning Point that was led by Charlie Kirk. I have heard some speculation about the future of that organization. One name that has come up is Erica Kirk, his wife, who some are saying could helm the organization now that he's gone. I will say he also has very powerful friends at the highest level of the Trump administration. Donald Trump Jr. Is someone who's a top ally of his, who gave me comments for my reporting about Turning Point, someone who was really would go to bat for Charlie Kirk. So I think in the next few days, and weeks, I should say, we'll all be watching what's the future of this organization and the quite sizable money that it was raising for Republicans.
We really appreciate you being here, and we'll check back with you as we watch these developments out in Arizona and the future of that organization, obviously very influential organization. Want to turn to another hotspot in our world, the Middle East. We've been talking a lot about it in recent days. There are new developments. The United Arab Emirates summoning the Israeli ambassador over Israel's attack on Hamas leaders in Qatar. Also, Doha will host an emergency Arab Islamic summit coming up this Sunday and Monday to talk about the unprecedented move by Israel to launch that attack in a sovereign nation. Meanwhile, the Times of Israel is citing unnamed military officials as saying that attack in Doha failed in its mission. President Trump had some rare criticism of Israel over the attack on Qatari soil, a U.S. ally that's been helping with mediation efforts in the nearly 2-year Israel-Gaza war. Let's talk about what's going on in Gaza City, because mass evacuations, they are underway after the Israeli military warned 1 million Palestinians to leave ahead of a planned ground assault against Hamas in Gaza City. And there you see the modes of transportation from automobiles and trucks to livestock carrying carts with people on top with their belongings beneath them. For those who heeded the warning, this has been a slow process to leave the city and head to those so-called safe evacuation zones. And as the Israeli military expands operations in Gaza City, they're also bombing buildings. The mass evacuation of over 1 million people, that's underway. But the scale of this and where people can go at this point, that remains a sticky question. The IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, they plan to increase the intensities of these strikes in Gaza City as they tell people to get out. So we have a guest here with us this morning who has a unique perspective. We're so glad you are here this morning with us to share your life experience. You used to live in that region, and you can share with us, first of all, whether you have family who is there that you've been in contact with, what they're telling you about where they're going and how they're feeling. Thank you for being here this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
What are you hearing from the ground, on the ground?
Actually, yesterday I was on the phone with my cousin, checking up on them, seeing how things are going, making sure that that they're alive and they're okay.
And they're in Gaza City?
They're in Gaza currently at this moment. Displaced and evacuated to Deir el-Balah yesterday. And the reason behind that is while I was on the phone with them, they just started screaming and yelling, "What's going on?" I, on the other end, phone call, was asking the same questions, and they're saying they are asking us to leave the house right now. They're going to hit close. This was a 40-second phone call, hung up, did not hear from them till 7 hours later. Not from them personally, but hearsay from other people that they have seen them in Deir el-Balah. And this is their day-to-day, hour-to-hour survival.
Yeah, reality. And Nala, explain to us, when they get that emergency evacuation call, where do they go? I mean, what is the place that's been set up for them? Can you describe what that's like?
Well, when they do get that phone call, or it's a matter of people screaming and telling them to get out, it's a quick reaction of, let's gather our children and run for our life. Simple human reaction, correct? Mm-hmm. So it's not like, where do they go, or they have a place to go. There is no place to go. There is no safe.
They just move.
Just run.
Yeah.
Grab. First thing she was screaming was, the kids are outside. Grab them. Let's go. And that is the first thing that they think about is run, run.
Tell us more about yourself. You grew up in Gaza, coming to the United States, 1988, correct?
I came here. I fled the Intifada, the first Intifada in 1988. I came here with my parents and my siblings, moved to the States, and I endured exactly what the children are going through right now. I lived through that. I lived through the bulldozers. I lived the tear gas. I lived through the soldiers coming through and raiding your homes in the middle of the night, telling us to line up in our backyard and asking us, where is that boy that ran through your yard this morning? Or they would tell us, let us see the other side of your shoes. Why? Because we want to match the prints that are on the sand outside in the streets.
I'm curious now, what's the feeling about Hamas and the impact of Hamas on everyday life now in Gaza?
Actually, this is not about Hamas. This is about what is happening, what Israel is doing to the Palestinians. It's always asked, Hamas, Hamas, Hamas. My return question to humanity is, what about the Palestinian children? What about the Palestinian people? What about them?
But are there feelings that Hamas has led us down this road? Do they bear responsibility for some of this humanitarian
The Palestinian
turmoil?
response to that question is, humanity has let us down.
Humanity
has let us down. That's their initial response. Because when they go on their social media and they ask for help and they ask for some sort of Please stop this. They're asking human to human. They're asking us to help them. They're not asking anybody else. They're asking the people that are responsible. They're asking the people that are able and capable of stopping this.
And Nala, I just want to let people know you've done that. You have personally opened your home to refugees from all around the world to try to help humanity. And so, can you just share some of those stories?
Well, that is my passion job. I've called it my passion job for so many years. I do help resettle refugees. If it's from 10 years ago when the Syrians came here, or from 4 or 5 years ago when the Afghans came also here. I was able to resettle refugees here in New Jersey. I was a project manager, through a resettlement agency. I worked directly with IOM to be able to resettle refugees that come from war countries, that come from war zones, and want a better life and want to live and have a better future for their children. But at the same time, now that has all stopped.
I was going to ask, is that even happening
That
now?
has
People getting
all
into
stopped.
coming into our
Come
country?
January 1st, not even January 20th. Come January 1st, that all stopped. There is no hope for refugees to be able to come to America and to build and get a better life. Like I came here in 1988 and was able to get a better life, was able to go to school, was able to play in the backyard, play soccer, ride my bike as I please here in America, because I was not able to do that in Palestine.
Israel has said they're going to launch a full-scale invasion of remaining areas in Gaza. What happens to the people living there now?
Well, Israel, we've known that. I'm sorry. We've known that they were going to do that. Where they're going to go, I don't know where they're going to go. You tell me. Millions of human beings. I don't know. I know where they're going to go. Their mindset is, this is our land. We're not leaving. But in reality, where are they really going to go? What's Trump's plan? What's Israel's plan? Because the Palestinians' plan is, this is our home, our land. We are not leaving.
Naja Kass, we thank you for being here to share your perspective on this.
I appreciate you for having me and letting me share my voice and my views on this.
Absolutely. That's what Connecting America is all about.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
No worries.
I wish I had.
Welcome back to Connecting America here on this Friday morning. We've got a huge menu, Alisyn, here at the Sunrise Diner. So many options to choose from, so many roads you can go down, whether it's healthy or maybe you want to indulge before the weekend and get those waffles or pancakes. We know it's common sense that a healthy diet, though, is going to lower your risk of type 2 diabetes. So there's the buzzkill for you. You know,
Yeah, a French toast and waffles don't really fit into that, I would say, Jim.
No, probably not. But there is some new science we need to dive into, but to backs up that study. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the Mediterranean diet, once again, has been proven to be the right answer. Okay. So, this is a study of nearly 5,000 people between the ages of 55 and 75 in Spain. They were tracked over a 6-year period. And the results, surprise, showed that the Mediterranean diet played a crucial role in lowering the risk for type 2 diabetes. That study appears in the Annals of Internal Medicine. And it also said that exercise, of course, another non-surprise, is a factor. So here's the Mediterranean diet.
Yeah, what are we supposed to be eating? What are we supposed to
Basically,
avoid?
I mean, be plant focused. Okay, so eat plenty of fruits, eat vegetables. You can eat whole grains, potatoes, beans, fine, nuts. Great, but you should be getting your protein really from beans and nuts rather than meat. Olive oil should be used liberally. That is your primary fat source. And then you can, I mean, it's not rigid. You can have a low to moderate amount of dairy products, eggs, poultry, and fish also plays a big role in the Mediterranean diet. So you can eat that. And it's great. I mean, basically, I've been following the Mediterranean diet just naturally because my family is Italian. And you're never hungry. It works,
Does it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. My grandmother Rosaria lived to 95. Also Italian.
I love the Mediterranean diet, honestly.
There you go.
Yep.
I don't know. I feel like you said you can do it in moderation. You can have that poultry and because that's what I crave is those kinds of proteins. I mean, nuts are great, but I can't survive just on nuts.
You're not just foraging in the woods for nuts and berries. Okay, Jim, that's fine. Yes, you can eat that. Eat lean protein. I mean, eat fish. How do you feel about that? Can you eat fish?
Yes,
Fish
I love fish. Absolutely.
Great.
Great. I tried vegan back at one
Yeah.
point, and for cholesterol reasons, because that supposedly helps lower your cholesterol. So what happened to me was I lost a ton of weight. But then you start craving, I started eating more and more pasta because you could eat that on the vegan diet. And then the weight you lose comes back. And it really didn't help my cholesterol in my personal case. So anyway.
Well, this isn't vegan. I mean, this is a lot more
this is different.
Pleasurable, hedonistic. Yes,
Yeah.
you can have lots of other, cheese and fish and nuts and everything. I guess that is vegan. Anyway, try it. But a waffle, I'm sorry, guys, waffle
No
is
go.
not going to fit in today. No.
What about mocktails? Let's talk about that.
Right.
And Marcy Hopkins is here to shed some light on this. Those non-alcoholic cocktails, Alisyn, do you partake at all?
Well, I think that it's great that there's all these high-end restaurants now that have a mocktail menu. And I recently tried one because, we are trying to cut down on alcohol consumption because there's been recent studies that show a link to cancer. So I was like, oh, this will be great, mocktails. And I really liked it. I think I might start a meal with a mocktail instead of a cocktail now. But then, Marcy, I was reading this new science, this new research that shows that it could be a trigger for some people.
Well, if you have stopped drinking, for instance, I'm almost 10 years sober, and it is recommended that you're not drinking these alcohol alternatives because you feel like you are drinking alcohol. So it may trigger you to want to drink the actual real thing. So that's what that's more about. But Gen Zers, millennials, I mean, they are really health conscious right now, and it's on the rise. 25% of Gen Zers are drinking alcohol right now, a huge reduction. So they are recognizing the importance of mental health and our overall health. It's become really important for them.
I understand that the doctor who decided to undertake this study realized she didn't know how to counsel her patients who maybe were dealing with addiction issues,
Yeah.
is it advisable to maybe try non-alcoholic drink, these mocktails, as a way to sort of get started? She said there was no science out there to provide an answer. Yeah.
So again, a mocktail, if you're drinking something that doesn't have these alcohol alternatives that taste like alcohol, a mocktail is fine. That's not a problem at all. If you don't really have a problem and you're just health conscious, you're wanting to reduce the amount of alcohol, because the reality is alcohol is not good for us. So if you're just wanting to reduce the amount of alcohol, then try the non-alcoholic wine or the non-alcoholic beer. And they do taste a lot like the real thing. A lot of people don't even know. The Heineken Zero is like huge right now. People are loving it. And I tell you, for me, when it comes to alcohol, it just leads to stress. It leads to depression. And the younger people are recognizing that it's more about community and having experiences. And all of us have really learned that through COVID. So I think it's just important to realize that we have these alternatives, and it's great whether you've decided to stop drinking or you're just trying to get healthy.
What trends have you seen in the market? What more options have you seen for non-alcoholic drinks?
Well, I'll say all the huge alcohol brands are jumping on this because they're recognizing they've got to start providing these non-alcohol options, or they're going to fail. Because again, these Gen Zers, they are shaping the market right now. And so there are so many options, which is fantastic. And the mixologists, the bartenders out there are getting excited because they're getting creative. So it is
And
fantastic.
so, Marcy,
Yeah.
but I mean, Marcy, as somebody who is sober, and as you say, you've been sober for 10 years, what do you drink when you go to a restaurant? Do you try a mocktail?
I do try a mocktail, and they're delicious. They're great. Like if you're wanting to feel part of, because a lot of times you feel like you can't be a part of something. And it's great now with the mocktails, nobody's questioning you. You're getting the fruity drink, you're getting the pretty drink, and you are part of the social situation. You're not feeling like you're being judged, you're excluded, and it's a great way to feel part of.
Are there certain ones, though, like non-alcoholic beer? Would you avoid that, or are there certain non-alcoholic drinks that you yourself personally feel like this is not something I want to taste because it reminds me of the real thing?
For me, listen, I drank a lot of Chardonnay, so maybe I wouldn't go with the Chardonnay. I wouldn't mind having a beer, but the reality is I don't care enough to have them, but I do enjoy a mocktail, the alternative of the mocktail. I don't need the alternative to the actual taste of the alcohol.
Obviously, you've done a lot of work to get where you are today, and admirable 10 years sober.
Thank you.
We always enjoy talking with you about that and getting rid of the stigma about talking about these issues.
That is huge. And I'm so glad that we are talking about it now, because you stay sick if we're not talking about this subject, and every family is touched in some way.
You know what else is important? I know this, and it's exercise, right? And we have just a segment for all of us who are thinking about how do we, get off the couch this weekend. Well, Connecting America's fitness correspondent Jenna Wolf is going to show us the top excuses.
Workout excuses. If I had a nickel for every time I heard one, I'd be able to buy myself a gym and then make an excuse why I couldn't go. Here are my top 3 workout excuses that I hear all the time and how to beat them. Excuse number 1, you don't have time, space, or any idea what to do. Okay, first of all, you have time. You spend 30 minutes Googling the actor from that show you watched last night. You can find some time. Here's what you're gonna do. Set a timer for 10 minutes, okay? Then pick any exercise, anything you want. Squats, lunges, front punches. You wanna sweep, something that requires no space whatsoever. Work for 45 seconds, rest for 15. You don't need space, you only need 10 minutes, and there's your plan right there. Excuse number 2, you're too tired. I'm too tired. We're all out here running on cold brew and coping mechanisms. Oftentimes, movement will spark energy. I'll show up at the gym exhausted, and I'll work 3 to 5 minutes just moving around, and then all of a sudden my body's like, oh, this is what we're doing, and catch on. Trust me, try it, it'll work. And excuse number 3, I'll start on Monday. Mystical, magical Monday, where abs are suddenly created. The first of the week, the first of the month, the first of the year, whatever it is, you wait so long, you'll accomplish nothing. Just go ahead and start. Force yourself. Start tired, start messy, just start. Bottom line, excuses are comfortable, progress is not. I say it all the time, nothing changes if nothing changes.
Coming in about the shooting of Charlie Kirk out in Utah. This information, Alisyn, is coming actually from President Trump, who is talking about it, saying that a person is now in custody. And he's saying this is preliminary information, but, quote, this is the person we're looking for.
Yeah, we've not heard this from the police yet.
No.
I believe there's a press conference scheduled for 8:45. So this, our only source at the moment is President Trump. And as we know, he sometimes can get ahead of his skis on some facts, and as did the FBI Director Kash Patel, who a couple of days ago had said that there was a person of interest in custody, and then that was later, he turned that around. So I think we'll wait. I mean, unless the police come out right now and say that, but it sounds like President Trump believes that they've got the guy.
Yeah, and apparently didn't offer a lot of details. He was interviewed on Fox and Friends, but this little detail is interesting. The president said a minister who is a member of law enforcement had communicated with the father of the suspect. Now, we don't know if this is the same person, you know, we've been seeing in these pictures that have been put out by law enforcement, but that the father of the suspect was in communication with a minister who's also in law enforcement, and that the person was turned in to authorities. Again, officials aren't confirming any of this at the FBI or local law enforcement there in Utah, but obviously we're going to wait further information. And as you said, Alisyn, perhaps more information coming up at 8:45, just a few minutes from now. We'll monitor that and bring you any news conference if they do, in fact, hold that news conference to relay this information officially.
Yeah, we'll watch for that. In the meantime, Mark, what else do we have?
Well, now we turn to Tyler Dragon, USA Today NFL and track and field reporter. Week number of this week in the NFL, we've seen perhaps the Green Bay Packers. Are they the new Super Bowl contender, Tyler?
Well, it sure does look like it, especially after last night. They really controlled the game against the Commanders, and the addition of Micah Parsons is working, hugely for Green Bay. I mean, he didn't have the big sack numbers yesterday, but the amount of pressures he gives on a quarterback and how he affects that defense is just huge. So
Best pass
Green
rusher
Bay today
in
is
football.
looking good.
Right.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Him or either Myles Garrett, probably the two best pass rushers in football, certainly.
Now, last night with the Washington Commanders, we saw dual threat Jaden Daniels, great at running, great at throwing the ball, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, but he was handled last night by the Packers. What are some of the other young QBs you're watching now?
Well, I mean, C.J. Stroud, he had a loss last week against the L.A. Rams. They have a huge game, the Houston Texans, against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's a young quarterback that I would like to see. Also, Cam Ward, the #1 overall pick. He's kind of like the least talked about #1 overall pick of all time. Nobody's really talking about him. Instead, people are talking about Shedeur Sanders, but he has a huge game this weekend as well against the LA Rams, and it's their home opener in Tennessee. So those are two young quarterbacks I'm real intrigued to watch in week 2 and see how they bounce back after a loss in week 1.
Now, also coming up, we're going to see a rematch this weekend of Super Bowl 59. Always drama when the Philadelphia Eagles play the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, if the Chiefs lose, are they in trouble? They're going to be 0-2.
Yeah, it will actually be Patrick Mahomes' first 0-2 start of his career. And really, the reason why they lost that Super Bowl, he was under siege the entire game. He was sacked 6 times. That's the most he's ever been sacked in a single game. The Eagles didn't even really blitz him in the Super Bowl. So a huge thing to watch in the Super Bowl rematch is to see if Kansas City's offensive line can protect Patrick Mahomes better. The Chiefs, bad thing that they had, their receivers are a little bit banged up. Rashee Rice is suspended, and then Xavier Worthy has a shoulder injury. So they're going to be incomplete at receiver, but can they manufacture enough offense to hang with the Philadelphia Eagles? The Eagles, they look like a buzzsaw in week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys. We all know what Saquon Barkley can do, Jalen Hurts and those boys. And then they get Jalen Carter back after that stupid spitting incident that he has. So it's going to be a good game, but I think the Eagles have the upper hand in this one.
Now, Tyler, we're sitting here in a diner in New Jersey. So, of course, I've got to ask you about the Giants. Russell Wilson, great quarterback, led the Seahawks to their only Super Bowl victory. He's been brought in, hopefully, to revive the moribund Giants, but he maybe isn't doing so well. The coach of the Giants says that maybe Jackson Dart is ready to go. Are we going to see him as quarterback before too long?
I believe so. You're going to see Jackson Dart sooner rather than later, especially if the Giants keep on losing. Their schedule does not do them any favors. They have one of the hardest strength of schedules in all of football. They have the Cowboys this week. I believe that's going to be a loss. And if the Giants keep on losing, you might as well play that rookie quarterback to see what he has, and so he can learn on the fly. That seems like what Brian Daboll is going to do sooner rather than later.
Well, the sands are always shifting in the NFL. Thank you very much, Tyler Dragon, NFL reporter for USA Today.
Some of you out there can be betting as well as watching these games coming up this weekend. If you are a bettor, you know all about the traditional sports books. You can't miss the ads, but now there are some different options like Kalshi, a company that allows you to bet on everything, including elections, Alisyn. So we want to find out more about this. How are these so-called prediction markets disrupting the sports gambling world? WagerWire's Zach Doctor has the story.
if you want to phone it in from the golf course in California, the only place you can really do it is Kalshi. Sports betting's not legal, but you can do it on a prediction market.
The biggest game on the board this weekend is very clearly the Eagles-Chiefs rematch of the Super Bowl. Philadelphia's in Kansas City this time, and they're 1.5-point favorites. So the bookmakers and the betting public think the Eagles have the advantage this time. And I tend to agree. I'm taking them.
Eagles, 53 cents to win 47. Don't mind if I do.
And boom, we're in. We'll win $100 return if we get this right. You can trade in all 50 states, which some of the states are already getting a little angry about. And actually Nevada served them with a cease and desist just last month, and they clapped back with a lawsuit. So the biggest controversy is really on the legal side, where sports betting companies who paid a lot of money to get licenses, have worked through the legal framework, are kind of pissed now, frankly, that Kalshi's jumping in so easily and can take bets in all 50 states. Now let's go to Las Vegas for the Robinhood Innovation Summit, where the co-founder of Kalshi is speaking on a panel.
I'm Luana Lopez-Lara. I'm one of the founders of Kalshi. We're the largest and first prediction market in the US, and we're powering a lot of the trading that you can do on Robinhood.
By partnering with the leading disruptor of the financial industry, Robinhood, Kalshi is redefining what it means to place a sports bet. One criticism from avid sports bettors is the lack of parlays on Kalshi. So I wanted to ask Luana when that would change.
There was a guy, Zach Doctor. If he could, no, he can't ask the question. Ixnay on, okay. Sorry.
And I got cut off. But thanks to our advisor, Danny Moses, I was able to ask Luana the question backstage.
You know what she said? It's coming in days, if not weeks. They're already testing it. So sports bettors, get ready. Parlays are headed your way on Kalshi.
So how does the experience of backing the Eagles on your phone on Kalshi compare to placing a bet in person at a sportsbook?
Hi there. How you doing? I'm looking to do a little money line on the Eagles against the Chiefs.
Here I'm paying cash to place the bet, and if I win, I got to return to Las Vegas or mail in the ticket to get my winnings.
$54.75 at minus 115. Let's see, what does that pay out? Nice. All right, all right. Better payout than Kalshi, actually. Las Vegas is competitive here. Have a good one.
There you have it. 2 different ways of winning or losing on your prediction. Go Birds.
We got that ticket.
You've noticed we do love our coffee here on Connecting America.
I'm drinking from an extra large cup this morning.
Yes, and that's why we're excited to launch an ongoing series right here called Perfect Night's Sleep.
And we're going to start with one of the biggest concerns when it comes to healthy night's sleep, and that is snoring. So let's bring in Dr. Jonathan Greenberg. He's the founder of Zipa. That's a device to stop snoring.
Dr. Greenberg, thanks for being here. Before we talk about Zipa specifically, snoring, we know it's annoying, but why is it also a health concern?
When somebody is snoring, they interrupt that deep sleep. If you don't get that REM sleep, if you're not dreaming, your immune system is not being refortified, and it's like you're cutting your police force or the army by 50% the next day. We talk about not just snoring, but what I call secondhand snoring. So the bed partner is impacted as well. Harvard did a study. If you don't get your REM sleep from the night before, you are 4 times at greater risk of an accident the next morning in particular. So the mom who's driving the kids to school is at 4 times a greater risk of a car accident because you, the husband, didn't stop your snoring. And there are great ways to stop the snoring. What's the main cause of snoring? It's actually the tongue. A big tongue in a small mouth. I've treated over 10,000 patients for snoring and sleep apnea. So I've seen this over and over again. When we're awake, our muscle tone is normal. So it's when we fall asleep, we lose that muscle tone, especially to our tongue, it falls back.
So what is the device to counter that?
A silicone strap keeps the tongue from falling back. Here's the mouthpiece, and this strap here is what I call a seatbelt for the tongue. And that's what keeps the tongue from falling back. If the tongue behaves, you don't even know it's there. But if the tongue doesn't behave, just like a seatbelt, it will keep it from falling back and having you snore. Our clinical trial, 91% successful. Our competitors were about 20 to 50% successful. We're talking about really making great inroads for sleep health. We're coming up on breast cancer awareness. I think everybody listening has been affected by someone close to them who's had breast cancer. Zipa said, what can we do? Because we want people to be as healthy as possible. And so our goal is to actually donate $50,000 to Susan G. Komen by the end of October, which means selling through 5,000 of our mouthpieces. The mouthpiece normally is $99. We're taking $10 off, so it'll be $89. We're donating $10 to Susan G. Komen on every mouthpiece sold, and we're giving a 30-day month supply of the mouth tape as well. We've sold over 500,000 of these. Our return rate last year was 4%. We know that it works. So we extended our money-back guarantee from normally 30 days to 91 days. We're not worried about anybody returning it. We want them to take the time to make sure they're successful with it. People always say, how do I spell Zipa? I came out of the 60s and 70s. So we played our records backwards. We did everything backwards. Well, Zipa is happy Z spelled backwards. So I said, what does everybody want? We want happy sleep. So happy Z. Zipa is happy Z spelled backwards.
Doctor, thanks so much for all the information. Really interesting. Go to zipa.com. Use the code PINK, as we were talking about for breast cancer awareness, or the word REST, which is what we all want, to 511-511. Again, zipa.com. The code PINK or REST to 511-511, and you'll be helping to fight breast cancer and stop your snoring.
And keep watching Connecting America to learn how to get the perfect night's sleep.
Text fees may apply.
One of our favorite servers, Trish, is here with us this morning. I bet you sleep well after how hard you work here at the Sunrise Diner every day.
I don't know. My husband snores.
Okay, so it's disruptive for you.
We have a solution.
Yeah.
We have a solution for you, Trish. You get him a Zipa.
I don't know. He threw out the defibrillator thing they gave him for the, he has sleep apnea, and he threw it out after the first week. So
I hope it's not a defibrillator. You mean like
no,
the sleep,
I said it
the
wrong.
sleep machine?
Yes,
yeah.
and he threw it out.
He doesn't sound like a very willing participant in just solving the snoring. But it's so funny, Trish, when Jim asked you, how do you sleep? I was a waitress for many years on the Jersey Shore and other places when I was a teenager and through college. I never have had a more stressful job than being a waitress. And I'm in breaking news and broadcast journalism. Being a waitress was so much more stressful. Do you have those dreams, Trish, with like I did, where I'd wake up in a cold sweat and be like, I forgot table four's coffee. Oh my God, I forgot table four's coffee.
It's usually a side of ranch.
A side of ranch is in the dream.
That's the nightmare. I didn't bring that extra side of ranch.
So if your husband snores and he's not willing to use the sleep machine, how do you deal with it? Do you just put on like some really good
No, I just usually end up with a cat sleeping on my head, and that usually helps. Purring is very lulling.
For those of you who don't know, Trish has 29 cats, and we're not exaggerating. Is it still 29, or have you hit 30 yet?
We lost a senior.
I'm sorry.
They when they live to almost 20, you're just grateful.
Do you feel a lot differently whether you get a good night of sleep or a bad night of sleep?
I mean, my energy levels is the same essentially either way. But yeah, it's always nice to get a good night's sleep.
Big weekend plans, Trish?
My friend Bob is hosting Cranstock in Nomahegan Park that he does every year for alumni of Cranford, but it's live music. It's catered by Hoboken Eddie's Barbecue, and it's a lovely day. There's relay races and stuff for children, face painting.
That sounds fun.
It's always a great time.
Well, enjoy.
I will. Thank you, guys. Have a great rest of your day.
We know that they're waiting for you, right?
Mhm.
You need to get back to work.
Bye, guys.
Orders up.
Thanks. Have a great weekend. So, Alisyn, we made it to Friday. On a very serious note, of course, we're awaiting any official word from authorities whether, in fact, a suspect has been taken into custody. President Trump said just moments ago in an interview on Fox and Friends that someone close to the suspect turned him in. And he's saying that it's with a high degree of certainty that they have their man. But again,
that
Alisyn,
is often how it works.
Yeah.
I mean, I was a crime reporter for many years at America's Most Wanted, and it's usually someone who knows the person that turns them in. I also thought it was interesting because now lots of news media outlets are trying to confirm what President Trump said and get a second source. And according to legitimate news outlets, they're saying that the person was actually arrested last night at 11 p.m., which would make sense. You know, the police would want to get that person processed and underway before announcing it to the public. So hopefully in a few minutes, we'll hear more.
I can only imagine how intense the pressure has been on law enforcement, including federal law enforcement, FBI Director Kash Patel, to get this suspect into custody.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, this would have been, anybody whose casket is going to get a ride on Air Force Two is going to be the top priority for the Department of Justice, for sure. And Charlie Kirk was certainly an ally of the president and such a huge public figure. I think that there would have been huge pressure. But again, if it's true, and we don't know yet, that a family member turned him in, that's interesting. I mean, there's a backstory there that I think will be very interesting to hear.
Yeah, there's some reporting from some other news outlets that a family member saw photos of the suspect and turned him into police. Again, we are watching developments along with the rest of you here at Connecting America. We really appreciate you joining us all this week here at the Sunrise Diner and at Alisyn's Global Home Quarters. We hope that you have a great weekend, Alisyn, and Mark, you as well.
Thank you. It's going to be a great weekend.
Thanks for being here, everybody.
Great to see you.
You too.
See you next week.